The massive chamber stretched wide with its curved walls reaching high above like some ancient cathedral made of metal and light. Hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds sat in their assigned sections, each delegation marked by the colors and symbols of their home planets. The air hummed with translation devices working hard to turn thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim sat in the small human section near the back corner of the Great Hall. His dark suit looked plain compared to the bright robes and armor worn by the other delegates. He held a simple tablet in his hands and wrote notes with quick, careful movements. His face showed nothing as he watched the other species argue and shout at each other. The reptilian Vorthak Empire held the largest section near the front. Their scales glowed green and gold under the chamber lights. General Taemin Park stood at their speaking platform, his voice deep and threatening as it boomed through the hall. He wore black armor covered in sharp metal points that caught the light when he moved. "The Kepler 442 system belongs to those strong enough to take it," General Park said while his yellow eyes swept across the chamber. "The Vorthak Empire has claimed this space for our growing needs. Any who challenge this claim will face our battle fleets." Across from them sat the insectoid Zephyrian Collective, in their section filled with strange organic furniture that seemed to pulse with life. Chancellor Bora Choi clicked her mandibles as she spoke, her multiple eyes reflecting the chamber lights like tiny mirrors. Her voice came out in sharp buzzing sounds that the translators turned into words. "The collective has equal claim to these resources," she buzzed angrily. "Our bioships need the rare minerals found in that system. The Vorthak cannot simply take what they want through threats of violence." General Park laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Your bug ships are impressive toys, but they cannot match the power of real warships built from proper metal and plasma. Perhaps you should stick to making pretty gardens on your worlds." The insult made Chancellor Choi's wings flutter with rage. Her delegation began clicking and buzzing loudly among themselves. Several other species started taking sides, some supporting the Vorthak's strength, others backing the Zephyrian claims. The noise in the chamber grew louder as arguments broke out. Hyunwoo continued writing on his tablet without looking up. His fingers moved steadily across the screen, recording everything he heard and saw. When a Vorthak delegate mentioned their new shield technology, he wrote it down. When a Zephyrian spoke about their ship-breeding programs, he added that information too. Admiral Soo-Jin Lee sat beside him in her simple blue uniform. She had asked to speak 3 times already, but the chamber moderator kept ignoring her raised hand. The human delegation consisted of only 4 people compared to the dozens representing other major powers. "The humans wish to speak," announced the moderator finally, his voice carrying no respect or interest. Admiral Lee stood up slowly and walked to the small human platform. Her voice was calm and clear as she spoke into the speaking device. "Earth requests permission to establish a small research station in the Kepler 442 system," she said. "We have 12 ships that could provide security for scientific operations. Our research teams want to study the unique stellar formations in that region." The chamber fell silent for a moment before laughter erupted from multiple sections. General Park slapped his armored leg as he laughed, while Chancellor Choi made chattering sounds that passed for amusement among her species. 12 ships, General Park said between laughs. "The mighty human fleet of 12 tiny vessels? How terrifying. Perhaps we should all surrender now?" Chancellor Choi added with clicking sounds. "Surely 12 human ships can defeat our combined fleets of thousands." Other delegates joined in the mockery. The fish-like aquarians gurgled with laughter, while the crystal beings called lithoids chimed like broken bells. Even the usually quiet Etherians allowed themselves small smiles at human expense. Admiral Lee remained standing at her platform, waiting for the laughter to die down. Her face showed no anger or embarrassment at the treatment. When the chamber finally quieted, she simply nodded and returned to her seat. "Any other business?" the moderator asked, without looking toward the human section. Hyunwoo raised his hand slightly. The moderator noticed and sighed with annoyance. "The human delegate has something to add," he announced. All eyes turned to Hyunwoo as he stood up. He was average height for a human with black hair and simple clothes. Nothing about him seemed impressive or threatening. He walked to the human platform and looked out at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. "I have no comments at this time," he said quietly. "Thank you." He returned to his seat and picked up his tablet again. The alien delegates exchanged looks of confusion and amusement. Some shook their heads at what they saw as typical human waste of time. General Park stood up again without being called upon. "This is exactly why humans should not be on this council," he declared. "They contribute nothing useful to our discussions. They have no real military power, no valuable resources, no advanced technology. They are here only because some of us felt sorry for their primitive species." Murmurs of agreement came from several sections. The Vorthak general continued his speech, his voice growing louder with each word. "Look at them sitting there like scared children while real powers discuss important matters. Their little research station request shows how small their thinking remains. While we plan for the future of the galaxy, they worry about studying stars and rocks." Chancellor Choi clicked her agreement. "The general speaks truth. Humans lack the vision needed for galactic leadership. They should focus on their simple pleasures and leave complex decisions to those capable of making them." Hyun-woo continued writing throughout the insults and dismissals. His expression never changed, as he recorded every word, every gesture, every detail about the aliens around him. He noted which species supported which positions, who seemed angry or confident, what technologies they mentioned in their boasts. When General Park spoke about Vorthak battle tactics, Hyun-woo wrote it down. When Chancellor Choi described Zephyrian defensive capabilities, he added that information to his files. Every careless revelation about military strength, every proud declaration about weapons systems, every detail they shared while showing off went into his growing database. The session continued for 3 more hours. The Vorthak and Zephyrian delegations traded increasingly harsh words about the disputed system. Other species began choosing sides or making demands for their own territorial claims. The chamber grew hot with anger and the smell of dozens of different alien species packed together. Through it all, Hyun-woo sat quietly in his corner seat. He asked no questions, made no statements, showed no reactions to the threats and insults directed at his species. To everyone watching, he seemed like exactly what they expected from humans: passive, weak, and unimportant. But his tablet held detailed records of everything said and done. He had noted the Vorthak fleet movements mentioned in casual conversation. He had recorded the Zephyrian ship production numbers bragged about by their military advisors. He had tracked which allies supported which enemies and who seemed ready to switch sides for the right price. As the session finally ended, delegates began filing out of the chamber in their various groups. The Vorthak marched out in formation, like soldiers. The Zephyrians flowed together like a living swarm. Other species left in their own unique ways, some floating, some crawling, some simply vanishing with advanced technology. The human delegation remained seated until the chamber emptied. Admiral Lee looked at Hyun-woo with a questioning expression, but he simply saved his files and stood up to leave. Outside the chamber, General Park spoke loudly to his followers about Vorthak's superiority, while Chancellor Choi gathered her swarm around her to plan their next moves. Neither group paid any attention to the quiet human walking past them toward the transport areas. Hyun-woo had what he came for. Now the real work could begin. 3 months passed like storms gathering on distant horizons. The Galactic Council chambers remained busy with emergency sessions as tensions grew between the major powers. News feeds across known space carried reports of fleet movements and military buildup on a scale not seen for centuries. The Vorthak Empire struck first, as many expected they would. General Taemin Park led a massive invasion force into the Altair and Proxima systems, both neutral territories that had remained independent for over 200 years. His ships arrived without warning and destroyed the small defensive stations within hours. "These systems contain resources vital to Vorthak's security," General Park announced to the Emergency Council session. "We cannot allow strategic materials to remain in the hands of those too weak to use them properly." The reptilian general stood at his platform wearing new armor decorated with the symbols of his recent victories. His yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he described how easily his forces had crushed all resistance. Behind him, other Vorthak officers nodded with approval at their military success. Chancellor Bo-Ra Choi responded by mobilizing the entire Zephyrian collective. Her bioships began emerging from their breeding worlds in numbers that shocked even the most experienced military observers. The living vessels moved through space like schools of massive fish, their organic hulls pulsing with internal light. The collective will not allow Vorthak aggression to continue unchecked, she buzzed angrily through the translation systems. Our biofleets are moving to defensive positions around all neutral systems. Any Vorthak ship that threatens peaceful worlds will face immediate destruction. The chamber erupted with worried voices from dozens of species. Smaller powers began choosing sides or declaring neutrality, while the two major empires prepared for what looked like total war. Emergency defense agreements were signed and broken within days, as alliances shifted like sand in strong winds. Captain Ji-hoon Yu received the mobilization orders, while his research ship, Sejong, orbited a distant star in the outer regions. His small crew of 30 humans had been conducting routine stellar surveys when the communication came through their quantum relay system. All Earth vessels are ordered to return to home space immediately, the message read. Galactic war appears, imminent. Human ships must not be caught in combat zones. Captain Yu looked at the orders for a long moment before calling his senior staff to the bridge. The Sejong was one of Earth's newer research vessels, built for long-range exploration, rather than combat. Its weapons consisted of mining lasers and defensive screens designed to handle space debris, not military attacks. Sir, we should start the jump sequence now, suggested Lieutenant Dong-hyun Kim, his navigation officer. The nearest safe route. Home will take us 6 days through the outer spiral. Wait, Captain Yu said while studying his sensor readings. Look at these energy signatures from the Kepler 442 system. Those are not natural stellar emissions. The captain transferred his sensor data to the main screen where his crew could examine the strange readings. The signals showed intense electromagnetic activity far beyond what any star should produce. Worse, the pattern suggested artificial generation from multiple sources. Someone is testing weapons, concluded Chief Engineer Min-ho Shin after analyzing the data. Big weapons, based on the power levels we are detecting. Captain Yu recorded his findings and transmitted them through official channels to both Earth Command and the Galactic Council. His report described potential weapons testing in the disputed system and recommended immediate investigation by neutral observers. The response came quickly from Admiral Woo-sung Kang of the Vorthak Fleet. The reptilian commander appeared on the communication screen with obvious annoyance at being questioned by humans. Captain Yu, your concerns are noted but unnecessary, Admiral Kang said with barely hidden contempt. The Vorthak Empire conducts routine training exercises in space under our control. Perhaps humans should focus on activities better suited to their capabilities, such as growing food or making art. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Captain Yu staring at a blank screen. His crew exchanged worried looks as they realized their warning had been completely dismissed. Similar dismissals met every human attempt to share intelligence or offer assistance. When Admiral Soo-jin Lee requested permission to deploy Earth's small fleet as neutral peacekeepers, both empires rejected the proposal with laughter. When human diplomats suggested mediation talks, they were told that real powers did not need help from primitive species. Behind the public rejections and insults, different work was happening in secret locations across Earth. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim had returned home immediately after the council sessions ended, carrying encrypted files filled with everything he had observed and recorded. Dr. Eun-ji Nam received those files in her underground laboratory complex beneath the mountains of South Korea. The scientist had spent her entire career studying alien technologies, usually from small trade samples or debris recovered from space accidents. Now she had detailed intelligence about the most advanced military systems in the galaxy. Look at this, she told her research team while displaying Vorthak shield specifications on a holographic projector. General Park was so proud of their new defensive systems that he described the entire harmonic frequency range during his speech. He even mentioned the power coupling methods they use. The information proved invaluable for understanding Vorthak vulnerabilities. Dr. Nam's computers began running simulation after simulation, testing different ways to disrupt or overload the alien defense systems. What they found was almost too good to believe. The Vorthak have made their shields incredibly powerful, explained engineer Min-ho Shin, but they achieve this by creating harmonic resonance patterns. If we can match those exact frequencies and amplify them, their own shields will tear their ships apart from inside. Similar breakthroughs came from studying Zephyrian bioship data. Scientist Yu Na-O discovered that the living vessels used quantum-linked neural networks to coordinate their movements. The system allowed instant communication across vast distances, but created a critical weakness. Their ships are all connected through organic quantum entanglement, Yuna explained to the research team. If we can introduce the right kind of feedback into one ship's neural system, it will spread to every connected vessel in their fleet. The work continued day and night as Earth's best minds analyzed every piece of intelligence Hyunwoo had gathered. They studied Vorthak battle formations, Zephyrian breeding cycles, allied fleet movements, and supply line logistics. Every careless, boast and casual revelation was examined for exploitable weaknesses. Meanwhile, the military buildup accelerated across the galaxy. Vorthak shipyards worked around the clock to produce new battlecruisers and dreadnoughts. Zephyrian breeding worlds spawned bioships by the thousands, their living hulls growing larger and more aggressive with each generation. Neutral species began evacuating border systems as both empires moved their fleets into position. Trade routes closed down as merchant ships refused to risk getting caught in combat zones. Smaller powers either joined one side or the other, or tried to hide in the furthest corners of known space. The breaking point came when a Zephyrian bioship and a Vorthak cruiser encountered each other in the neutral Kepler 442 system. Both were supposedly conducting peaceful surveys, but neither trusted the other's intentions. When the Vorthak ship's active scanners interfered with the bioship's neural systems, the living vessel attacked instinctively. The brief battle lasted only minutes, but it destroyed both ships and killed over 1,000 beings from both species. Neither empire was willing to accept responsibility for the incident. Instead, each blamed the other for aggressive actions and demanded immediate compensation. The collective will no longer tolerate Vorthak terrorism, Chancellor Choi announced in an emergency council session. Our biofleets are moving to secure all disputed systems. Any Vorthak vessel found in collective space will be considered a legitimate military target. General Park responded with equal fury. Zephyrian bioships have proven they cannot control their aggressive instincts. The Empire will establish protective zones around all systems containing Vorthak citizens or interests. We will defend our people against these organic monsters. War declarations followed within hours. Both empires recalled their ambassadors and activated their full military reserves. Alliance treaties were invoked as smaller species were forced to choose sides or face economic and military pressure. Through all the crisis meetings and emergency sessions, Hyunwoo Kim made one final proposal to the Galactic Council. His suggestion was simple and seemed almost pathetic given the scale of the approaching conflict. Earth offers to provide neutral peacekeeping forces to help prevent further escalation, he said quietly during the last council session before formal hostilities began. Our 12 ships could establish a buffer zone between the opposing fleets while diplomatic solutions are sought. The proposal was accepted with barely concealed amusement from both sides. 12 human ships standing between two of the galaxy's most powerful military forces seemed like a gesture of desperate hope rather than practical peacekeeping. The Kepler 442 system had become the focal point of galactic attention as two massive fleets moved into position for what military analysts called the largest space battle in recorded history. Thousands of ships from both empires formed battle. Lines stretching across millions of kilometers of space, their weapons powered and shields raised for combat. Admiral Soo-Jin Lee stood on the bridge of the human flagship Dokdo, watching her tactical displays show the enormous forces arrayed against each other. Her ship was one of 12 human vessels positioned in the narrow space between the opposing fleets, looking impossibly small compared to the alien war machines surrounding them. Vorthak fleet strength is approximately 4,000 ships, reported Lieutenant Da-Yoon Park from her sensor station. Zephyrian biofleet numbers are harder to count because they keep splitting and merging, but estimate 3,500 vessels minimum. The human ships maintained their position in the middle of what would soon become a battlefield. Their peaceful intentions were broadcast continuously on all communication frequencies, but neither empire seemed interested in avoiding conflict anymore. General Taemin Park commanded the Vorthak forces from his massive dreadnought Bloodclaw, a ship so large it could carry smaller vessels in its internal docking bays. His yellow eyes gleamed with anticipation as he studied the enemy formations through his tactical screens. Today, the galaxy learns the true meaning of Vorthak power, he announced to his fleet commanders. These organic freaks have challenged our rightful expansion for the last time. When this day ends, the collective will exist only in history books. Across the battle zone, Chancellor Bo-Ra Choi coordinated her bioships from the living command vessel Queenheart. The massive creature's organic brain could process battlefield information faster than any computer, giving instant updates on fleet status and enemy movements to its smaller offspring scattered throughout the formation. The Vorthak have revealed their true nature as destroyers and conquerors, she buzzed to her swarm commanders. Today we cleanse the galaxy of their poison. Our children will grow strong feeding on the metals of their broken ships. Both fleets began their final approach toward optimal firing range. The space between them filled with scanning beams and targeting signals as thousands of weapons systems locked onto their chosen targets. The tension built like electrical charge before a lightning strike. Commander Jae-Sung Lim watched the approaching fleets from his stealth ship Hwarong, one of the most advanced vessels in Earth's small fleet. His ship was invisible to alien sensors, hidden by technology that humans had developed in secret over the past year. Around him, his crew prepared equipment that looked nothing like conventional weapons. Infiltration drones are ready for deployment, reported Engineering Officer Kyung-Ho Bae. All units have been programmed with the frequency patterns Dr. Nam provided. They should attach to target vessels without triggering defensive systems. The drones were Dr. Yoon-ji Nam's masterwork, designed based on the intelligence ambassador Hyunwoo Kim had gathered during months of careful observation. Each device was smaller than a human hand, but contained sophisticated electronics, capable of interfacing with alien ship systems. Lieutenant Da-Yun Park activated her electronic warfare suite from the Docto's command center. Her equipment was based on scientist Yuna Oh's research into Zephyrian neural networks and Vorthak shield harmonics. The systems were designed to exploit the exact vulnerabilities that Earth scientists had discovered in alien technologies. Electronic countermeasures are active and ready, she reported to Admiral Lee. We have isolated the specific frequencies needed to trigger cascade failures in both fleet types. Waiting for your orders to begin the operation. Tactical Officer Sung-Ho Jin monitored both alien fleets from his position, tracking their energy signatures and communication patterns. His job was to identify the optimal moment for human intervention, when both empires would be fully committed to their attack and unable to withdraw quickly. Both fleets are powering weapons to maximum capacity, he announced. Vorthak shields are resonating at exactly the frequencies Dr. Nam predicted. Zephyrian bioships are establishing full neural links for coordinated assault. They are completely vulnerable to our prepared countermeasures. The first shots of the battle came from long-range plasma cannons as Vorthak ships opened fire on the approaching biofleet. Streams of superheated energy crossed the space between the formations, lighting up defensive screens and organic armor with brilliant explosions. The Zephyrian response was immediate, as bioships launched living projectiles that could adapt their attack patterns during flight. Admiral Lee watched the battle begin with professional interest. Both empires were fighting exactly as Earth's military analysts had predicted, using tactics and formations that revealed all their strategic weaknesses. The alien commanders were so focused on destroying each other that they paid no attention to the small human ships scattered throughout the battlefield. Begin drone deployment, Admiral Lee ordered quietly. Commander Lim released his infiltration drones in carefully planned patterns that would spread them throughout both fleets. The tiny devices moved silently through space, their advanced stealth systems keeping them invisible to alien sensors focused on larger threats. Each drone sought out its programmed target type and attached itself to ship hulls using molecular adhesion technology. The battle intensified as both fleets closed to medium range. Vorthak heavy cruisers unleashed devastating energy barrages, while Zephyrian bioships swarmed around larger vessels like predatory fish attacking whales. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships from both sides took damage and began falling out of formation. Drones are successfully attaching to target vessels, reported Commander Lim. 90% deployment success rate. Both fleet types are accepting our infiltration devices without triggering security responses. The irony was not lost on any human observer. The same alien arrogance that had led to dismissing Earth's intelligence capabilities was now allowing human devices to attach to their ships without detection. Neither empire believed humans capable of sophisticated technology, so their defensive systems were not programmed to look for human threats. Lieutenant Park began her electronic assault as the alien fleets moved into close combat range. Her carefully tuned signals found their way into Vorthak shield generators and Zephyrian neural networks, introducing tiny anomalies that would build into catastrophic failures over the next few minutes. Electronic warfare protocols are active, she reported. Vorthak shields are beginning to show harmonic instability. Zephyrian neural links are experiencing minor feedback loops that are amplifying with each communication pulse. Tactical Officer. Jin tracked the developing system failures across both fleets. His screens showed energy patterns that the aliens would interpret as normal battle damage, but which were actually the first signs of technological suicide programmed by human intelligence. Cascade failures are beginning in both fleets, he announced with satisfaction. Vorthak's shield resonance is building toward critical levels. Zephyrian neural feedback is spreading through their quantum-linked communication network. Estimate 15 minutes until total system collapse. The alien commanders remained focused on their conventional battle, unaware that their own technologies were being turned against them. General Park ordered concentrated fire on the largest bioships, while Chancellor Choi directed her swarm to overwhelm Vorthak defensive formations. Neither noticed the small human ships moving quietly through the battlefield. Admiral Lee opened a communication channel to both fleet commanders as the first major system failures began manifesting. Her transmission reached every ship in both fleets simultaneously, carried by the same networks that were about to destroy them. General Park and Chancellor Choi, this is Admiral Lee of the Earth Peacekeeping Force, she said calmly. You have 30 seconds to power down all weapons and withdraw your fleets to minimum safe distance. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your naval forces. The response was immediate and predictable. General Park's laughter boomed across the communication channel, while Chancellor Choi clicked with amusement at what they saw as a desperate bluff from a powerless species. Admiral Lee, your 12 tiny ships are about to witness the power of real military forces, General Park replied with obvious contempt. When this battle ends, perhaps humans will understand why important decisions should be left to superior species. The human delusion of importance amuses the collective, Chancellor Choi added with buzzing sounds. Your pathetic vessels cannot affect the outcome of this conflict. Watch and learn how real powers conduct warfare. Admiral Lee closed the communication channel and looked at her command staff with a slight smile. Around the bridge, human officers, prepared to demonstrate exactly why underestimating an enemy was the most dangerous mistake any military force could make. All stations report ready for final phase, Tactical Officer Jin announced. Both alien fleets are fully committed to their attack and cannot withdraw quickly enough to avoid the cascade failures we have triggered. Electronic warfare systems are operating at maximum efficiency, Lieutenant Park added. The response from both alien fleets was exactly what every human officer had expected. General Park's voice roared across the communication channels with fury at what he saw as an absurd threat from an inferior species. Destroy that human ship, immediately, he commanded his fleet. Show these primitives what happens when they interfere with Vorthak military operations. Target their flagship and reduce it to space debris. Chancellor Choi's reaction was equally predictable, her mandibles clicking with aggressive amusement as she directed her bioships toward the human vessels. The human delusion ends now, she buzzed to her swarm commanders. Our children will feed well on the metals of their broken ships. Perhaps consuming human technology will teach our offspring about the dangers of overconfidence. Dozens of weapons from both fleets turned toward the small human ships scattered throughout the battlefield. Energy beams and living projectiles began converging on Admiral Lee's position as two galactic superpowers attempted to swat what they saw as annoying insects. None of those weapons ever reached their targets. The first sign of disaster came from the Vorthak dreadnought Bloodclaw itself. General Park was still issuing orders to destroy the human ships when his own vessel's shields began fluctuating in patterns that his engineers had never seen before. Sir, we are experiencing harmonic resonance in the primary shield array, reported Chief Engineer Wan-Guk Lee with growing alarm in his voice. The defensive fields are oscillating beyond safe parameters. Power levels are climbing toward critical overload. General Park turned away from his targeting displays to stare at his chief engineer. That is impossible. Our shields are the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. Fix whatever minor malfunction is causing this interference. But Engineer Lee's face showed terror as he watched his readouts climb into dangerous territory. Sir, this is not a malfunction. The harmonic frequencies are being generated externally and amplified by our own defensive systems. Someone is using our shields against us. The truth hit General Park like a physical blow. The quiet humans had somehow turned Vorthak defensive technology into a weapon of self-destruction. Before he could issue new orders, the cascade failure reached critical mass. The Bloodclaw's shields collapsed inward instead of protecting the ship, creating a gravitational implosion that crushed the massive dreadnought like an empty can. The vessel that had been the pride of the Vorthak fleet simply crumpled into twisted metal, killing everyone aboard in seconds. Across the Vorthak formation, identical failures began spreading from ship to ship. The resonance patterns that Dr. Yoonji Nam had discovered were being transmitted through their own communication networks, turning every defensive system in the fleet into a self-destruct mechanism. All ships, emergency shields shut down, screamed. Admiral Woo-Sung Kang from his heavy cruiser, but the order came too late. The cascade had already spread through quantum-linked systems faster than any counterman could travel. Captain Ji-Hoon Yu watched from his research vessel Sejong as Vorthak ships began imploding throughout the enemy formation. His sensors recorded the exact frequencies being used to trigger the failures, confirming that human intelligence had accurately predicted every aspect of alien defensive technology. Their own shields are tearing them apart from inside, he reported to Admiral Lee, with professional satisfaction. Dr. Nam's calculations were perfect. The Vorthak fleet is destroying itself with technology they considered superior to anything humans could understand. The Zephyrian bio fleet faced an even more catastrophic fate. The neural feedback loops that Lieutenant Da-Won Park had introduced into their quantum communication network were spreading like a virus through every connected organism. Chancellor Choi felt the first effects personally as her command ship Queenheart began convulsing with neural seizures. The massive bioship's organic brain started receiving contradictory signals that told it the vessel was under attack from its own internal systems. The children are screaming, she buzzed in panic as reports flooded in from across her fleet. Something is wrong with the neural links. Our ships believe they are being attacked by parasites inside their own bodies. The bioships began turning their weapons on themselves, their organic brains convinced that deadly infections were spreading through their living hulls. Weapons designed to destroy enemy vessels started firing into their own vital organs as the neural cascade spread through the quantum-linked network. Sever all communication links, Chancellor Choi ordered desperately, but the quantum entanglement could not be broken quickly enough. The feedback loops had already contaminated every connected brain in the fleet, turning the collective's greatest strength into a weapon of mass suicide. Commander Jae Sung Lim monitored the destruction from his stealth ship Hwarang, his infiltration, drones providing real-time data on both fleet collapses. The devices that had attached to alien hulls were now transmitting detailed sensor readings of the catastrophic failures occurring throughout both formations. Vorthak fleet strength is down by 60% and falling rapidly, he reported. Their shield failures are creating chain reactions that are destroying entire battle groups. Zephyrian bioships are auto-cannibalizing at an accelerating rate. The neural cascade has infected approximately 80% of their fleet. Tactical Officer Sung Ho Jin tracked the spreading destruction with grim satisfaction. His screens showed energy signatures that told the complete story of alien technological hubris being turned into devastating weakness. Both fleets are experiencing total systems collapse, he announced. The Vorthak cannot shut down their shield generators fast enough to prevent further implosions. The Zephyrian neural network is spreading our feedback virus faster than they can isolate infected vessels. The irony was overwhelming. Two of the galaxy's most powerful military forces were being destroyed not by superior firepower, but by their own advanced technologies turned against them. The same systems they had bragged about during council meetings were now killing them faster than any external enemy could have managed. Admiral Lee watched the destruction with calm professionalism, while alien ships died by the hundreds around her small fleet. Not a single human vessel had fired a conventional weapon, yet they were achieving the most complete military victory in galactic history. Time to total fleet destruction, she asked her tactical officer. 18 minutes for complete Vorthak collapse, Jin replied after checking his calculations. Zephyrian biofleet will be entirely self-destroyed within 22 minutes. No alien vessel will survive the cascade failures we have triggered. The few surviving alien commanders tried desperately to regain control of their dying fleets. Emergency communications filled the battle zone with panicked orders and confused reports as officers struggled to understand what was happening to their ships. All units, abandon ship immediately, General Park's surviving officers broadcast to what remained of the Vorthak fleet. Shield systems are beyond recovery. Evacuate to emergency pods before hull collapse. Disconnect all neural links, Zephyrian swarm leaders buzzed frantically. The quantum network is poisoned. Our children must isolate themselves or die with the collective. But escape was impossible for most crews. The cascade failures were happening too quickly for effective evacuation, and the alien technologies that had seemed so advanced were proving to be death traps when turned against themselves. Captain, Yu received updates from his sensor operators as they tracked the final stages of both fleet destructions. The research vessel's scientific instruments recorded every detail of the technological collapses for later analysis. Vorthak heavy cruiser formations are completely destroyed, reported sensor operator Minjae Go. Only scattered smaller vessels remain functional, and those are losing shield integrity rapidly. The biofleet is down to approximately 15% of original strength, with remaining ships showing severe neural damage. Admiral Lee opened communication channels to the surviving alien vessels as their fleets died around them. Her voice remained as calm and professional as it had been during every diplomatic meeting where they had dismissed human capabilities. Attention remaining Vorthak and Zephyrian forces. This is Admiral Lee of the Earth Peacekeeping Fleet. Your military operations in this system are concluded. Any vessel attempting to continue hostile actions will experience additional technical difficulties. The surviving alien commanders stared at their communication screens in shock and terror. The quiet human they had laughed at was offering them mercy after demonstrating the power to destroy their entire civilization. How? Whispered Admiral Kang from his damaged cruiser. How did 12 human ships destroy our fleets without firing a shot? We listened when you talked, Admiral Lee replied simply. We learned when you taught us. We prepared while you assumed we were helpless. The galaxy told us exactly how to defeat you, and we took notes. The remaining alien vessels found themselves facing 12 human ships that had emerged from the battle completely undamaged. Not a single Earth vessel showed any signs of the combat that had just destroyed 2 galactic superpowers. Chancellor Choi's damaged bioship drifted helplessly among the debris of her once mighty fleet. Her voice came through the communication systems as a broken whisper filled with disbelief. 3 weeks after the destruction of 2 galactic superpowers, the Galactic Council chambers felt different in ways that went beyond the obvious absences. The curved walls seemed to echo more than before, and conversations were quieter, more careful. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in their assigned sections, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The Vorthak section sat nearly empty, except for a handful of surviving officers who had managed to escape the fleet destruction. General Taman Park was dead, killed when his dreadnought imploded, and the Empire's military command structure had been completely shattered. The few remaining ships were scattered across Vorthak space, their crews too traumatized to consider aggressive action. The Zephyrian Collective section was even more sparse. Chancellor Bo-Ra Choi had survived the neural cascade, but her mind had been damaged by the feedback loops that had infected her bioship's organic brain. She sat silently in her chair, occasionally clicking her mandibles but no longer able to form coherent thoughts. The collective consciousness that had once unified her species was broken, leaving individual Zephyrians confused and directionless. Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim returned to his corner seat in the human section, carrying the same simple tablet he had used during previous sessions. He wore the same dark suit and maintained the same calm expression, but when he walked into the chamber, every conversation stopped. Hundreds of alien eyes followed his movement as he sat down and began taking notes. The silence stretched uncomfortably until the council moderator cleared his throat and called the emergency session to order. His voice shook slightly as he spoke, and he avoided looking directly at the human delegation. The council recognizes the need to address recent events. In the Kepler 442 system, he announced carefully, Multiple member species have requested investigation into the destruction of the Vorthak and Zephyrian fleets. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but they were subdued compared to the loud arguments that had characterized previous sessions. No one wanted to speak too boldly in front of the humans who had just demonstrated their ability to destroy entire civilizations. Hyunwoo raised his hand slightly, and the moderator immediately recognized him. The chamber fell completely silent as the quiet human stood and walked to his platform. Every delegate watched him with expressions ranging from fear to desperate curiosity. Earth has prepared a detailed report on the recent military action, he said in the same calm voice he had always used. The evidence shows that both the Vorthak Empire and Zephyrian Collective had been developing weapons of mass destruction intended for use against civilian populations. He activated his tablet and transmitted files to every delegation in the chamber. The data included recordings of Vorthak military communications discussing planet-killer weapons and Zephyrian planning documents describing the enslavement of primitive species for bioship production. These intelligence files were gathered during routine diplomatic observations, Hyunwoo continued. Both empires revealed their intentions through careless discussions during council sessions. Earth acted to prevent genocidal attacks on innocent species throughout the galaxy. The alien delegates stared at their screens with growing horror as they realized the scope of the planned atrocities. The Vorthak had been designing weapons capable of sterilizing entire worlds, while the Zephyrians had been preparing to harvest sentient beings for their living ship programs. "How long?" asked the representative from the crystal-based Lithoid Confederation. "How long have humans been gathering this intelligence?" "Since our first day on this council," Hyunwoo replied simply. "Every session, every casual conversation, every boastful revelation about military capabilities. We took notes on everything because we believed that knowledge would be necessary to protect peaceful species." Admiral Sujin Lee stood and activated her own presentation system. The screens around the chamber displayed technical analyses of alien weapons systems, detailed battle plans, and comprehensive intelligence reports that made it clear humans had been preparing for defensive action for months. "Earth has established permanent peacekeeping stations in 12 key systems," she announced. "These installations will monitor military activities and ensure that no species attempts to develop weapons for genocidal purposes. Any civilization that threatens innocent lives will face immediate technical difficulties." The implications were unmistakable. Earth now possessed detailed intelligence on every major military force in the galaxy and had demonstrated the ability to turn alien technologies against themselves. No empire could consider aggressive expansion without risking total destruction. Dr. Yoonji Nam appeared on the chamber's communication systems from her laboratory on Earth. Her presentation included detailed technical papers on defensive systems, vulnerabilities that made every military officer in the audience realize their fleets were helpless against human countermeasures. "This research has been published in open scientific journals," she explained to the stunned delegates. "Any species interested in improving their defensive systems can access our findings. We believe that stronger defenses will encourage peaceful resolution of conflicts." The message was clear but diplomatically phrased. Earth was sharing the knowledge needed to build better defenses while making it obvious that human intelligence had already found ways to defeat every existing military system in the galaxy. Commander Jae-sung Lim transmitted sensor logs that showed human ships had been present during every major fleet movement for the past year. The stealth recordings revealed that Earth had monitored secret military exercises, classified weapon tests, and private strategy meetings throughout known space. These operations were conducted to ensure galactic security, he reported. Earth's peacekeeping fleet has been observing potential threats and preparing defensive measures. We will continue monitoring military activities to prevent future conflicts. The alien delegates exchanged nervous glances as they realized that humans had been watching them constantly without being detected. Every secret they thought they had kept, every private military operation, every classified discussion had been recorded and analyzed by the species they had dismissed as primitive. Captain Ji-hoon Yu presented the final piece of evidence that demonstrated human capabilities. His sensor readings from the battle zone showed exactly how Vorthak and Zephyrian fleets had been destroyed, with technical details that proved beyond doubt that human intelligence had orchestrated every aspect of the military collapse. Both empires were defeated using their own technologies against them, he explained. No human weapons were necessary because alien systems were designed with vulnerabilities that could be exploited through careful analysis. Superior firepower means nothing when your own defenses become your greatest weakness. The presentation concluded with Hyun-woo returning to his platform for final statements. He looked out at the chamber filled with frightened and awed alien delegates, many of whom had spent years dismissing human intelligence and capabilities. Earth does not seek to conquer or control other species, he said quietly. We simply want to ensure that peaceful civilizations can exist without fear of genocidal attacks or imperial expansion. The galaxy has room for everyone who chooses to coexist rather than dominate. He paused and looked directly at the surviving Vorthak and Zephyrian representatives before continuing. However, any species that chooses to threaten innocent lives will discover that their own technologies can become very unreliable very quickly. We recommend focusing on peaceful development rather than military expansion. The session ended in complete silence as delegates struggled to process what they had learned. The quiet humans they had ignored and dismissed had not only been listening to everything, but had been 3 steps ahead of every major power in the galaxy. As representatives filed out of the chamber, conversations were whispered rather than shouted. No one boasted about military strength or threatened aggressive expansion. Everyone understood that human ears were listening and human minds were analyzing every careless word for potential threats to galactic peace. Hyun-woo remained in his seat until the chamber emptied, just as he had done after every previous session. He saved his files and prepared to leave, but this time alien delegates approached him with careful respect, rather than dismissive amusement. Ambassador Kim, said the representative from the peaceful Etherian assembly, how can our species ensure that we are not seen as threats by Earth? Continue being peaceful, Hyun-woo replied with a slight smile. Earth has no interest in interfering with civilizations that choose cooperation over conquest. We only act against those who threaten the innocent. The Etherian nodded gratefully and hurried away to spread the message to her government. Similar conversations took place around the chamber as species sought reassurance that their own technologies would not be turned against them. As Hyun-woo finally stood to leave, he noticed that the chamber had become much quieter than it had ever been during his time on the council. No one was making threats or boasting about military power. Everyone was speaking carefully and thinking before they revealed strategic information. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about the dangers of underestimating quiet observers.